I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space! Wrong!
So, some context. A while back, I completed Starfield by only gun bashing. Apparently, that concept was so novel that several websites decided to make possibly AI-generated articles about it. Those were the good old days. Risk of Rain music, slightly more awful mic quality, me saying ammo's heavy. Memories. Anyways, today I'll be revisiting that concept in another Fallout-inspired RPG in space, The Outer Worlds.
Kill yourself!
Like Starfield, Fallout 4, and Skyrim, The Outer Worlds allows you to quick melee with your gun with the simple press of a button. Normally, you'd use this to stagger enemies or keep them away from you while you unload bullets, plasma, or other forms of electromagnetic radiation into them. You wouldn't use it for the raw damage it inflicts, as it inflicts barely any. In fact, often whacking people with your gun will just display a big fat 0. But what if you did use your firearms as blunt instruments to smack some sense into the Halcyon colony? After all, ammo's expensive, heavy... Okay, let's just get to the point. Can you beat The Outer Worlds with only gun bashing? Do I really need to explain the rules in detail? Because I will. The only way I'm allowed to damage enemies is hitting them with one of my fabulous firearms. Whether that be a pistol, rifle, or heavy weapon, it doesn't matter. No melee weapons, and no pulling the trigger. I'm also not allowed to have companions with me. In fact, I won't even be adding any to my crew. Finally, I'll be starting the run on story difficulty, as gun bashing is much less effective in this game than Fallout or Starfield, but if it starts to get too easy or too hard, I'll adjust the difficulty accordingly. I like torturing myself, but not to the point of insanity. Now, with all that aside, let's get started. For my stats, I go with very high strength because I don't know if it affects bashing damage or not, better safe than sorry. Average dexterity because again, the melee attack speed bonus might affect gun bashing. Very high intelligence because being smarter somehow makes you score more crits. Below average perception because you don't need 20/20 vision to smack someone over the head with a gun. Below average charm because it's best not to worry what other people think of you. And high temperament because being cool, calm, and collected allows you to regenerate from bullet wounds at an astounding rate. How?
Nanomachine, son!
For my tag skills, I go with stealth and tech. Since I don't want to cheese the game with dialogue skills, none of the others are even remotely useful. For my attribute, basically the trait system from New Vegas but completely useless, I go with Safety Inspector, which gives me 3% plasma resistance. I doubt that would even protect me from burning my finger on the stove, but okay. For my character, I make a handsome specimen of a man and name him Bashful, because this run will be full of bashing. And he even looks the part. After crushing Buck Rogers with my fat ass, I suffer multiple leg fractures causing unbearable agony, instantly walk it off, patch up the wound of a corporate bootlicker, and make him lick the underside of his own gun. Unfortunately for me, I fail the run, as I need to destroy these barrels and gun bashing has no effect. So I do a 360 no-scope and sacrifice the life of a bullet to progress. She will be deeply missed. To be fair, I didn't harm any enemies doing this, so I think it's fair game. The first few enemies go down relatively easily, but still. If it takes this long to kill the literal first few enemies in the game, I don't have very high hopes for this run. With the charm of a moldy sponge, I convince the nearby ship inspectors to cross off the resident marauders, and then emotionally scar an AI before leveling up, putting points into dialogue, stealth, and tech, and getting the lone wolf perk, which increases my damage by 25% while forever alone. For most level ups, I'll just be putting points into stealth and tech, so don't expect me to go over all of them in detail. On the way to Edgewater, I bash a few more faces in, and oddly enough, it goes better than the tutorial. In the edgiest of waters, I do some freelance pest exterminating, talk to the bowler hat guy about getting a power regulator, ignoring poor Parvati for the second time, and continue my pest extermination spree on a band of marauders. Most of them go down pretty handily, but they also take apart my organs like a jigsaw puzzle with their fancy assault rifles, forcing me to use my inhaler and TTD. TTD really helps hitting the enemy's head or other such weak spot, and can buy you valuable time. After leveling up and failing to convince Granny to let me take her power, I head to the plant and pull out my shotgun, which bashes at the same rate but for more damage. Still, their high health and resistance to physical damage makes killing them a time-consuming affair. My only saving grace is that they can't turn fast enough to hit me if I run circles around them. The circling trick doesn't work as well with drones, but they can be staggered pretty easily, so they aren't a huge threat. Before I can divert the power, I need to flip 3 switches, because if there's anything you need to do in a video game, it almost always comes in a set of free. A quick tour of the plant later, with combat going the same as before and me entering and exiting the building to reset some of the enemies, I take the power from the cult of quasi-cannibal hippies without a shred of remorse. I shove the power regulator deep into Ada's sensitive, quivering outlet and get showered in her thick, creamy praise, and with that, we set off for the stars. This levels me up, where I get the toughness perk, as charging your enemies with nothing but a good pistol whipping arm is bound to leave some holes in you. I then head straight to Monarch, which is a planet you're supposed to get an expensive nav key for, so you can land in the relative safety of Stellar Bay. The game hammers it into you how dangerous this place is, and how going there without a nav key is suicide, and to that I say,
Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow.
yep, you can run straight from Cascadia to Stellar Bay without a hitch. And before you say it's because I was on baby mode, I've tested this on harder difficulties. As long as you run around enemies and avoid their projectiles, it's more than doable. To really emphasize the fact I'm not supposed to be here this early, I level up not once, but twice from merely discovering Stellar Bay, where I get the cheetah perk that would have been a lot more useful a few minutes ago. I then pickpocket another granny to get Nyoka her morning coffee so she can tell me where to go and level me up. With that, I apparate a ship into existence with my mind, give the Grim Reaper blue balls, and with the cheetah perk, effortlessly sprint past all the wild and not so wild life on the way to Devil's Peak. I take a pit stop at Amber Heights and attempt to scribble Graham out of the grand plan, but my gun bashes literally deal 0 damage to him, so that's not an option right now.
Why won't you die?
Finally making it to...
The devil's anus.
This lady talks about her gun named Sunshine, but when I kill her, no such gun can be found. Considering Obsidian's great track record with unique weapons, I am severely disappointed. I don't let that disappointment stop me from bumping past some marauders and giving the ones inside a good paddling.
What's that noise?
The ones deeper in use acid weapons that eat right through my armor, and take considerably more bashes to kill, meaning I have to huff my inhaler like an asthma patient in a Chinese city. They do go down through attrition and a healthy dose of insanity. The ringleader, however...
Why won't you die? Nanomachine, son. They harden in response to physical trauma.
Weak, so weak.
Yup, my bashes inflict literally 0 damage on him, and since I have to kill all the marauders in this place to proceed, I'm shit out of luck. Is what I would say if heavy weapons didn't inflict more damage on a gun bash. Luckily, shock cannons are common enough to come by, and I immediately test this newfound power by terminating Sanjar Nandi from his job as a living being. This will make turning on the radio signal much easier. Oddly enough, despite having brutally murdered their leader in plain sight, I am still neutral with MSI. I try to inflict the same fate on Gramcracker, but the iconoclasts with heavy weapons all around me make it kinda difficult. What ends up working is using all the relevant drugs in my inventory, huffing my inhaler like mad, and using a combination of TTD, headshots, and crits to quickly take him down and sprint out of the camp. Again, I turn their leader into crumbs, and yet I am only off-put. The reputation system in this game is weird. Now that I have a heavy weapon, I can finally deal with that marauder ringleader that was giving me trouble. Since I only do 3 damage and he has 260 health, it takes me a while. With a shiny new case of carpal tunnel and a sliver of my sanity gone, Hiram Blythe is able to send the radio signal right away, since anyone who could be mucking up the broadcast is dead. Oh, and I get the Quicken the Dead perk. After the ground violently collides with a nearby ship, Zora asks me to get its targeting modules for her, as if I didn't just kill the leader of her entire movement. Oddly enough, MSI doesn't send Celia or someone similar to ask for the modules, I guess because they have more common sense. Truly, it doesn't matter, as I give the gram treatment to Zora because I hate loose ends. Oh, now you're angry. With all that wrapped up, I tenderize Bubbles and watch her post-death seizing, talk with Phineas and Ferb, who asked me to steal a vat of Nickelodeon slime, and set off to do exactly that, ignoring the severed arm stinking up my ship. Pickpocketing the info from Carmen instead of talking to her due to my antisocial tendencies, I use my medical know-how to overdose Mayfield on rainbow liquor.
You sure sound like you know what you're talking about. Okay, here goes. Yeah. Was that one supposed to taste like purple berry crunch? Or am I just tasting breakfast? I don't feel so good. I think I'm gonna be sick. I just need to sit down.
And with the estate key, drink some soda, lager, and Monster Energy to give myself enough persuasion for Minister Clark's parcel. Speaking of Minister Clark...
Yoink!
I don't have enough persuade to get into the Acropolis district, but luckily, accepting to star in a movie is enough to level me up. Not actually starring in one, mind you, just agreeing to. I still complete the quest, of course, can't pass up that sweet XP, and end up turning the actor's bodily fluids into set dressing.
I knew you had chops, but that was something else. You found the energy in the scene and ran with it. That was visceral. Liked it. I fucking loved it.
With these newfound skill points, I can get my persuade up to 30, and use consumables to bump it up to 40 and bribe Stallworth. I know I could have just used the tunnels, but it's the principle of the thing, okay? Totally not, because I forgot you could do that. I then go into Clark's office to print a keycard and get past Platt without any effort.
I beg your pardon, Minister. I suppose that is admissible.
Getting into the Ministry requires a tad more effort, however. I buy and attach a tech kit to my armor, which gives me just enough science skill to flirt with a woman about cellular biology.
Oh. You know, I always have time for sprout mitochondria, as well as charming men who can appreciate the finer points of cell biology. This is certainly a conversation worth continuing elsewhere.
She then tells the guard to let me through, and I begin heading for the chemicals before realizing I don't have an ID card for my shroud. No matter, simply going up and down an elevator is enough to confuse the guards, letting me take all the Baja Blast at the cost of killing a few people through withdrawal. I flip a Conde the bird while still staying neutral to the board for now, give Finny Boy the chemicals, and level up, getting Slow the World as my perk. Now that Finn knows the board's Batman villain level plan to freeze everyone, he wants us to bring the hope to him so they don't toss out the colonists aboard like yesterday's garbage. After patching Ada through, I take a pit stop at Edgewater to buy some things to boost my lockpick so I can steal the ID card I need. Making a mad dash to the communications terminal, I manage to rout the unreliable the literal second my shroud runs out, getting accosted by a robot and leveling up at the same time. Luckily, I'm able to put the blame on C&P. The Mega Sprat does take some patience and meds to exterminate, but I am eventually successful and hang him up by his tail. Even this game can't escape Bethesda physics. Anyways, I skip the hope Phineas gets attacked, I slip into his room unseen and pull a passcode out of a cancerous pig's ass, grab the tartar sauce nav key, getting the low master perk in the process, and outrun some capitalist scum to rescue our favorite insane scientist. Only problem is, my dialogue skills aren't good enough to get a Tartarus ID card. This is easily remedied by using the respecification machines to allocate my points into dialogue, and then intimidating the guard that FaceTimes me. Except now I have another problem, in that even with the respec machine, I don't have enough skill points to hack the Ram boss fight. Looks like it's side quest time. I start out by getting the prismatic hammer, which honestly sounds more like a Terraria weapon, and while trying to help out Jesse, I find out Udom Bedford eventually gets transferred out of the Groundbreaker. Seriously, I've never seen this NPC before in my life. At least it makes my job easier. Next up is fixing the ship for Parvati's tomboy waifu. The outlaws here, including Mac Red, are nothing to write home about. The same can be said for the mana pillars and automechs, as while the automechs do take a lot of punishment, the tried and true strategy of running circles around them works as well as ever. With that done, I level up, gain the trust of the Groundbreaker, and turn in Mac Red's lighter on my way out for some extra bits and EXP.
My next stop is Scylla, where some more outlaws go kersplat. And I rescue Zap Brannigan, leveling me up once more in the process. With more than enough skill points now, I use the respec machine to get my hack and lockpick to nearly 100. This comes at the cost of not having enough dialogue skill to convince guards I'm supposed to be here. For the first section, I just run through and tank enough damage to get the first part of the RAM password. The same thing applies to the second section. In the pit, I go into a control room and get the last piece of the password. I then try to make a break for it, but somehow this guy stops me while I'm going up the elevator. Unlike before, my strategy of running past everyone no longer works, as I have to use a terminal which is inaccessible in combat and the soldiers take 0 damage. I am able to use consumables to up my persuade and recharge my shroud, but now I have to sneak past a whole room of corporate units with no shroud, no dialogue skills high enough to pass a second check, and no points invested directly into sneak. This takes a while, so I go through the liberty of speeding it up. While my bronze tongue isn't enough for the chairman, I can use my chill attitude to make him join my side. And by join my side, I mean become my puppet. Obviously. With my shroud recharged, dashing to the final elevator is no problem, and I have a brief chat with Akande where I basically just rub her failure in her face. Now for the final boss. With 100 lockpick, I get into Ram's control chamber, and with 100 hack and the password, I'm able to designate him as a hostile intruder, making those annoying drones he summons attack him instead of me. While this doesn't kill him, it still knocks off a considerable chunk of his health and reduces the amount of things attacking me at once, which is very much appreciated. Even with a heavy weapon, Ram's body takes no damage from bashing, but the glowing, conveniently unarmored core on his back definitely does. Basically, this fight consists of me constantly bashing him as it still staggers him despite doing no damage, while circling around him so I can hit his core. When he does his dash attack, he is vulnerable for a few moments, at which point I use TTD to get in as many hits as possible. When he jumps into the air, I simply dodge backwards to avoid being concussed like a Dark Souls back roll, which reduces my damage.
Yes, Mr.
Bashful.
It's over now.
With the giant mechanical sheep put out to pasture, I give Sophie Akande a pistol whip massage before 2 solid whacks for my shot cannon make her teeth resemble a dropped piano.
Freeing Phineas Wells, we set off to save the Halcyon colony together, proving that yes, you can beat the Outer Worlds with only gun bashing. In conclusion, gun bashing in the Outer Worlds is not nearly as useful as it is in Fallout or even Starfield, as you may know if you watched my video on it. This was actually a good thing. It made this feel like a real challenge that I had to work around rather than a mildly unconventional playstyle. The fact that some enemies take 0 damage from bashing made this more of a puzzle than anything. Overall, while it had its tedious and frustrating moments, I actually enjoyed this playthrough for the difficulty it brought to the game. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and comment below why you liked it. If you didn't enjoy the video, leave a dislike and give constructive criticism so I can improve. Also, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this in the future. Leave your ideas for new runs down below. I do read them and they may become an official video. For more content, check out my Reddit page, or go to my Discord if you want to hang out and chat. Or check out my second channel, The Loophole. One last thing. Huge shout out to River Pebbles, who narrated a part of this video. He makes challenge runs of Fallout and all sorts of other games, and I highly recommend you check him out. I'll put a link to his channel in the description as well. Underrated channel, go subscribe now, or I'll eat your spleen. This is Causal Loop signing off. Peace. Eat your spleen, 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 eat your spleen.